There comes a moment in life when you begin to realize that everything you chase, everything you attach meaning to, is only as real as the value you give it. Fame, success, reputation, even love, all of these are empty containers. They hold nothing until you decide what to fill them with. We are conditioned to believe that meaning exists out there, in the world, in achievements, in other people's approval. But the truth is, meaning does not exist outside you. It exists because of you. Everything means nothing until you choose. When a person wins a trophy, they call it success. When another loses, they call it failure. But both are illusions. The same event, two different meanings. So what is real? Only your choice. If you seek peace, don't search for it in the world. The world offers confusion, chaos, and noise. Seek peace in your clarity of choice. When you decide with awareness, this is what I will value, this is what I will stand for, you stop drifting, and you start living. It's not the circumstances that define you, it's the interpretation you give to them. A stone on the ground can be a weapon, or it can be the beginning of a temple. The stone didn't change, you did. So when I say everything means nothing, I am not speaking of despair. I am speaking of freedom. Freedom from being controlled by what others think matters. Freedom from chasing shadows that disappear when the light changes. You are the painter of your reality. The brush is your awareness, and the color you choose becomes your life. Therefore, choose for you. Choose what nourishes your inner peace, what strengthens your character, what aligns with your values. Because meaning, my friend, is not discovered, it is created. And once you realize that, you will never again live by default. You will live by design. We live in a world that constantly tells us what matters. From the moment we are born, society begins to hand us a list of meanings already decided for us. We are told that success means wealth, that love means possession, that education means status, and that happiness means comfort. We inherit these meanings without question, and so we walk through life wearing borrowed definitions. Yet there comes a moment, often in silence or in suffering, when something inside begins to whisper, "Is this truly mine?" That whisper is not doubt, it is awakening. It is the beginning of understanding that meaning is not found in what we are told, but in what we choose to see. The world itself is neutral. Events happen, people come and go, victories rise and fade. It is our perception, our inner interpretation, that turns them into joy or despair, victory or failure. To understand that meaning is self-created is to take back authorship of your own life. Imagine life as a blank canvas. The paint is experience, and the brush is your awareness. Whatever you decide to focus on begins to take form and color. Most people, however, never realize they are holding the brush. They believe the world paints for them. They react to events as if meaning is imposed upon them, not born within them. But the wise see differently. They understand that meaning does not live in the event, but in the relationship you have with it. The same storm that breaks one man's home becomes another man's lesson in resilience. The same silence that frightens one soul becomes another source of peace. Meaning is the lens you place before your eyes, and through that lens, you create your world every single moment. When you begin to see that everything around you holds no inherent meaning, you also begin to feel the weight of responsibility. Because now it is not the world that defines your happiness or pain, it is you. It can be uncomfortable at first to realize that your suffering may come not from what happened, but from the meaning you gave to it. Yet in this realization lies true freedom. You can begin to reframe, to reinterpret, to choose differently. The loss of a job becomes an invitation to rediscover your purpose. The betrayal of a friend becomes a lesson in discernment. The failure of a dream becomes an opportunity to realign with your deeper self. Once you see meaning as self-created, every experience becomes a teacher. Life stops being a chain of random events and starts becoming a dialogue between your inner world and the outer one. This is not a call to detach or to deny the reality of emotions. Pain, loss, joy, love, all are real in experience, but they are also invitations to awareness. You are the alchemist who turns emotion into understanding, who transforms chaos into wisdom. The more consciously you choose your meanings, the more power you reclaim from the illusions of circumstance. In truth, everything in life is empty until you fill it. A relationship, a goal, even your sense of identity. When you stop chasing meaning outside yourself, you begin to create it from within. You stop asking, "What does this mean for me?" and start asking, "What meaning will I give this?" That is the shift from unconscious living to conscious creation. It is the realization that you are not a product of meaning, you are its source. So meaning, in the end, is not discovered in the mountains or written in the stars. It is not hidden in success or waiting at the end of your achievements. It is born in the quiet decisions you make each day, how you interpret, how you respond, how you see. The power to define your experience has always been yours. The world reflects the meaning you project upon it. When you truly understand this, you stop waiting for life to give you purpose. You begin to give life its purpose. Everything means nothing until you choose. When you first hear the words, "everything means nothing," they may sound cold or nihilistic, as though life is stripped of all significance. But in truth, this realization is not about emptiness. It is about liberation. It is the release from chains you never knew you wore. Most of our suffering does not come from reality itself, but from the meanings we attach to it, the meanings inherited from culture, family, or the collective noise of the world. When we believe something must mean a certain thing, we give away our inner freedom. We say, "If this happens, I will be happy," or "If this fails, I am worthless." And so we live as prisoners of conditions. But when you see that nothing carries inherent meaning until you choose to give it one, the cage dissolves. You realize that life is not happening to you, it is unfolding through you. The freedom in this awareness is immense, because it places the key to your peace entirely in your own hands. This understanding is what spiritual teachers throughout time have pointed toward: the freedom beyond attachment, the clarity beyond judgment. When you recognize that meaning is self-created, you stop letting the world dictate your emotional weather. You are no longer a leaf blown by the winds of circumstance, but the sky itself, unmoved by the storms that pass. Freedom in realization means you can witness success without arrogance and failure without despair, because you know that both are temporary reflections, not ultimate truths. It allows you to observe your emotions without drowning in them, to see anger, sadness, or joy as waves rising and falling on the surface of your consciousness. The awareness that you are the one assigning meaning gives you space. In that space you discover calm, the calm of knowing that you can always reframe, always choose differently, always create new meaning from the same moment. Freedom, however, does not mean indifference. It means mastery. To live freely is not to detach from life, but to engage with it consciously. When you understand that everything means nothing, you no longer chase illusions of fulfillment, you begin to create purpose from presence. You stop needing validation to feel worthy, because worth is not something to be earned, it is something to be realized. In this freedom, the approval of others loses its control over you. Their praise or their criticism no longer binds you, because you understand both are interpretations. Theirs, not yours. Freedom in realization means you no longer run from discomfort or cling to pleasure. You can stand in both and remain still. You see that both are teachers, both necessary, both passing. This is the balance the mind seeks but rarely finds, the quiet strength that arises when you are no longer attached to meanings you did not choose. Yet this freedom comes with responsibility. To realize that everything means nothing is to accept that you are the one who gives meaning to everything. You can no longer blame the world for your unhappiness, nor can you wait for it to hand you purpose. That may seem like a heavy truth, but it is the most empowering one. It means that at any moment you can begin again. You can choose differently, see differently, interpret differently. What once felt like loss can become learning. What once felt like failure can become fuel. When you stop believing that life must follow a certain pattern to be right, you open yourself to endless possibilities. You become fluid like water, able to move through challenges, to adapt, to remain clear no matter how turbulent the surroundings. That is true freedom, not the absence of challenge but the absence of inner bondage. To realize that everything means nothing is to realize that everything is possible, because in the silence of meaning you are free to create anew, free to live without fear, free to walk your path without apology, free to be wholly consciously alive. Every moment of your life is shaped not by what happens but by how you choose to perceive it. Between stimulus and response, between what occurs and what it becomes, there lies a sacred space, the space of choice. This space is the birthplace of your reality. Many people live their entire lives unaware of this power. They believe their emotions, their happiness, their sense of peace are dictated by the external world. Yet this is the greatest illusion of all. Events in themselves are neutral. They carry no inherent message, no permanent weight. It is the mind that assigns meaning, that paints over the blank canvas of experience with color and emotion. A sunrise can be the beginning of gratitude or the continuation of sorrow. A word spoken by another can be taken as an insult or as a mirror for your own sensitivity. The same world is seen by billions of eyes, yet no two see the same reality, because reality at its essence is the reflection of choice. To understand that choice defines reality is to reclaim your creative power. You are not merely reacting to life, you are constantly shaping it. Each thought, each interpretation, each belief you hold becomes a filter through which you experience the world. When you choose fear, the world appears hostile. When you choose love, the same world reveals its gentleness. The world outside does not change. What changes is the quality of your perception. That is why two people can live through the same event, one emerging bitter, the other wiser. The difference lies not in the event, but in the consciousness brought to it. The wise recognize that choice is not a single act but a continuous flow. Every breath, every moment, every thought is a subtle choosing. Choosing what story to tell yourself, what emotion to nurture, what energy to carry. You become what you choose to see. And in that awareness lies both the responsibility and the freedom of being human. The mastery of life begins when you stop reacting unconsciously and start choosing deliberately. Most suffering arises from automatic reactions, the mind's habit of labeling experiences as good or bad, desirable or painful. But once you awaken to your power of choice, you can pause before labeling. You can create space between perception and interpretation. In that space you can ask, what meaning will I give this? This question is the key that unlocks clarity. It transforms you from a passive observer into an active participant in your own evolution. When you face hardship, you can choose to see it as punishment or as preparation. When someone hurts you, you can choose resentment or you can choose understanding. Each choice opens a new path of reality, a new vibration that shapes what you attract, how you think, and how you feel. Choice then is not just a decision. It is the architect of your destiny. It molds your past, sculpts your present, and silently constructs your future. But the power of choice requires awareness, for without awareness, choice is illusion. Most people are not truly choosing, they are merely reacting, driven by conditioning and past pain. Awareness is what transforms reaction into conscious selection. When you are aware, you can stand in the middle of chaos and still choose calm. You can be surrounded by noise and still choose silence within. You can be misunderstood and still choose compassion. That is the essence of inner freedom, the realization that no external force can dictate your state of being unless you give it permission. Once you understand this, you no longer chase control over the world, you master control over your inner narrative. You begin to see that every event, no matter how small, carries within it an invitation. Will you choose to awaken or to remain asleep? Each time you choose awareness over reaction, you rise above the unconscious pull of circumstance. You begin to live not as a victim of life, but as its conscious creator, shaping your world not by force but by the quiet power of deliberate choice. There is a silent strength that arises when one begins to live with awareness rather than reaction. Most people move through life unconsciously, tossed by the tides of circumstance, joyful when things go as they wish, broken when they do not. They live in constant dependence on conditions outside their control. Yet awareness is the bridge that leads you beyond this instability. To live with awareness means to witness life as it unfolds without immediately being consumed by it. You begin to observe your thoughts, your emotions, your impulses, not as absolute truths, but as passing visitors. Awareness gives you distance, and in that distance, clarity is born. When you are aware, you stop confusing temporary storms with permanent realities. You recognize that what is happening around you does not have to dictate what is happening within you. You become the sky, vast and unshaken, allowing the clouds to move, yet never losing your own stillness. Circumstances are ever changing. They rise, they fall, they evolve. To tie your peace to them is to build your house upon the sand. Awareness, however, is the ground beneath it all. It does not depend on outcomes or external validation. It is the inner knowing that you are the experiencer, not the experience itself. When awareness is strong, no matter what occurs, you retain your center. You can meet pain without collapsing into suffering. You can meet success without drowning in pride. Circumstances lose their power to control your emotions because your focus shifts from what is happening to how am I being with what is happening. This is where mastery begins. You can walk through loss with dignity, through chaos with calm, through confusion with patience. You no longer resist life's movement because you understand that every event, pleasant or painful, is simply another opportunity to remain awake. Awareness transforms even adversity into wisdom. Awareness is not detachment in the sense of avoidance, it is the highest form of engagement. It means being fully present with each experience without being enslaved by it. When you face discomfort, the unconscious mind wants to escape, to numb, to blame. But awareness invites you to look closer, to feel what arises, to understand its source, to learn from its message. The aware person asks, "What is this moment trying to show me?" instead of "Why is this happening to me?" That shift in perspective is profound. It turns suffering into understanding and confusion into clarity. Awareness allows you to meet every circumstance as a teacher, not as an enemy. The smallest frustration becomes a mirror of your impatience. A moment of joy reveals your capacity for gratitude. Through awareness, life itself becomes a path of learning. Each breath, each challenge, each silence guiding you back to yourself. This is not escape from life. It is immersion into it with eyes wide open. When awareness becomes your anchor, you discover that peace is not the absence of problems, it is the presence of understanding. You stop trying to control every wave that comes your way, and instead you learn to surf upon them with grace. The external world will always change, people will come and go, plans will succeed and fail, seasons will turn, but your awareness can remain steady. That steadiness is your true home. It allows you to respond rather than react, to act with intention rather than impulse. In awareness, you no longer fight against life's flow, you learn to move with it. This does not mean you become passive, it means your actions arise from clarity instead of chaos. When awareness governs your life, peace is no longer something you seek, it becomes something you embody. Circumstance loses its power over you because awareness has revealed a deeper truth that nothing outside can truly disturb you unless you first forget who you are within. To live by design means to awaken to the immense creative power that has always resided within you, the power to shape your thoughts, your values, your direction, and ultimately your destiny. Most people, however, live by default. They move through life on autopilot, repeating the patterns of their upbringing, reacting to the expectations of others, and following paths that were never truly their own. To live by default is to allow external forces, society, culture, fear, habit, to decide the rhythm of your life. You become like a leaf carried by the wind, going wherever circumstance takes you. But to live by design is an act of conscious rebellion, a quiet revolution against unconscious existence. It begins with awareness and intention. You start asking questions you once avoided. Who am I beneath the noise? What truly matters to me? What do I choose to give my time, my energy, and my heart to? These questions are not merely reflections, they are blueprints. Through them you begin to design a life that aligns with your essence rather than one that conforms to the world's expectations. When you live by design, you recognize that purpose is not something waiting to be found in the future. It is something you build through your choices in the present. Every decision you make, no matter how small, becomes a brushstroke on the canvas of your life. The food you eat, the words you speak, the thoughts you entertain. All of these are design elements that shape the quality of your inner and outer worlds. Living by design means you stop blaming your circumstances for where you are and instead take full responsibility for how you respond to them. It is not about controlling everything, it is about directing your awareness with intention. You begin to filter what you allow into your mind and heart. You become selective with your energy, choosing growth over comfort, discipline over distraction, truth over convenience. The difference between a life of confusion and a life of clarity is not luck, it is the consistent practice of conscious design. To live by design requires courage, the courage to unlearn, to redefine, and to stand apart when necessary. Because once you choose your own path, the world will question you, people will tell you what you should do, how you should feel, what you should want. They will try to fit you back into the shape that makes them comfortable, but design means authenticity, and authenticity demands the willingness to walk alone for a while. It is the strength to remain faithful to your vision, even when no one else understands it. To live by design is to stop performing for the world and start creating from the soul. It is to trade imitation for originality, comfort for growth, and conformity for purpose. You begin to build boundaries not as walls but as frames, frames that protect your focus, your peace, and your direction. Through this, your life becomes art, not something accidental but something crafted. Every action reflects who you are becoming, not who you once were, and yet the beauty of living by design is that it does not demand perfection, it demands presence. You will still stumble, you will still doubt, but even those moments become part of your design when met with awareness. Living by design means that you learn from every misstep, refine every choice, and keep realigning with your inner truth. The architect of life does not stop building when a structure cracks, they rebuild with greater wisdom. In the same way, when you live consciously, setbacks become adjustments, not endings. You begin to see that success is not defined by the applause of others, but by the peace within your heart. To live by design is to wake each morning with the intention to move closer to your authentic self, to act, speak, and think in harmony with your deeper values. Life by default is a repetition of yesterday. Life by design is the conscious creation of today. When you live this way, you no longer drift through existence, you compose it, with awareness as your guide and purpose as your foundation. So, when we say everything means nothing, choose for you, it is not a statement of despair, but of empowerment. It is a reminder that life has always been in your hands, not in the hands of circumstance, not in the approval of others, not even in the stories of your past. You hold the pen, you are writing this life every single day with your thoughts, your awareness, and your choices. The world will continue to change. Seasons will shift, people will come and go, successes will rise and fade, but the one thing that remains constant is you, the observer, the chooser, the creator. And when you understand this, you stop searching for meaning outside yourself. You stop waiting for life to prove your worth. You begin to live from within, grounded in the quiet knowing that your peace, your direction, your purpose, all begin where awareness meets intention. To live this way is to walk with clarity. It is to look at the noise of the world and say, I will not be distracted. It is to face confusion and say, I will create understanding. It is to look into your own reflection and realize that you are not a product of meaning, you are its source. You are the consciousness that gives value to every moment, so choose for you, not from ego, but from awareness. Choose what aligns with your truth, what nourishes your soul, what leads you deeper into stillness. Because in the end, the meaning of life is not something you find, it is something you become. And when you live with that understanding, every step you take, even the smallest one, becomes an act of creation. Every breath becomes purpose, every moment becomes enough.